you went ahead and took a shot with Justin Rose?
I do every tournament. You know that.
Every tournament you take on.
Yeah, he's my. I mean, it used to be Oosthuizen, and then he doesn't play anymore. You know, my basic theory is like I hate to bet the favorites.
If Scottie Scheffler won 9 tournaments, which he did last year, but you would be barely breaking even with him if you bet him in every tournament. Barely breaking even if you bet him at 4-1 or less.
This is why
he
my
won
hope
9 times, an incredible 9 times.
This is why my hope is that there will be some member of the Augusta police force who looked at Scottie Scheffler and sees a man for who he is, which is a scumbag who drags cops behind his car for no reason and shoots Scottie Scheffler in the parking lot like he deserves. That would be the best outcome for those of us who did bet the dentist, is if a cop takes revenge for his brother law enforcement who got dragged behind a car by Scottie Scheffler last year. Unfortunately, they've switched the Doral event to a Live Tour event because I was fully prepared to go there and plant some crack in Scheffler's rental car, and they call the cops and tell them I saw him selling it at a school zone. But
the time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Still one of the tough beats from so many different angles. The professor, unfortunately, not able to cash at 120 to 1. 120 to 1 with Justin Rose. What a phenomenal wager that would have been had he capitalized on that. But, wow, the fact that he was even in the playoff, Louis, was somewhat remarkable. I mean, beyond remarkable. Because he did the El Fado there in round number 3, and you thought, typical, the older guy, how many times have we seen it? Tom Watson, wasn't he about to win the British Open? He's in there about 3.5 rounds in. He still is in the lead, and then next thing you know, he crumbles. Greg Norman had that when he was up in age. The only guy who was able to conclude one of those tournaments with a win, what was the Masters with Tiger Woods? 2019 was that?
Yes.
Seems like it was further back because it's still painful to me to experience Francesco Molinari going 4 on like 13 as his ball went into the woods, and that was it. He was done. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you on this fine Wednesday. We're going to talk in a few minutes here, get some detail on the Pistons and the Knicks in the opening round. Pistons and the Knicks. The Pistons are rather overwhelming underdogs. You're getting plus 325 on a series with the Detroit Pistons against the New York Knicks. If you were just looking at this on the periphery, Lubie, on the surface, you say Pistons, Knicks, and you're thinking, Knicks and what? Knicks and 6? Is that fair? Does it even go that far, Lubie? What do you think? How are you, Mike Lubitz?
Look, Pistons have one of the young, I don't know if he's already a star or becoming a star, what you want to call Cade Cunningham, who's had a really good year, and they've had a really good year. I could see them pushing them a little bit. They played really well, especially the second half of the season. The Knicks just have a lot of veterans. The Knicks are just, I should overwhelm them. But I can see it going 6. Again, we've talked about the Knicks being gas and Pistons being a young team. So I can see them taking a couple games, but it'll be 6 games, but it'll be 6 games that the Knicks are going to win the series. All
right, we'll get some detail on that. Interesting matchups already set. We had the play-in games last night. Orlando with a blowout over the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young gets kicked out of the ball game, essentially for kicking the basketball into the crowd. And he refused to give it to the referees. And then later on, Golden State, everybody's darling. People still think, even with Golden State now emerging from the play-in series and lining up against the Houston Rockets in the opening round of the actual. I mean, do we consider play-in as part of the tournament? I suppose you have to, but it's always difficult to consider that round 1, isn't it? Since it's a fugazi round of 1 or 2 games for the teams that are involved. But we have 2 more games on tap tonight. Golden State prevails there. A 5-second call with about, I think, ironically, there were like 5 seconds and change left to go in a ball game. Memphis is down 3. They're inbounding the ball in the front court, Lubie. We were just talking about this before we signed on here, and we welcome everybody to the show because a lot of ground to cover today. And Grant Long, as I said, going to join us here. We'll get some NBA analysis. But when do you ever see the 5-second call actually enforced? It's like 3 seconds in the paint. It's traveling. It's double dribbles. I'm watching one play last night from this game where, and this whole catch and drop, if you drop the ball as somebody passed it to you, as long as I've been involved in basketball, which I started following the game probably at about 9 or 10 years old with interest. At 16, really ratcheted up exponentially my interest in the game. If you received a pass and the ball hit the ground, that was your dribble, was it not? You can't then pick it up and start dribbling again
Oh,
and then take 6 spinning feet to the basket, changing pivot feet 4 or 5 times, and not get called for something, a double dribble, a travel, something, palming, anything. But you rarely see these calls enforced. The 5 second call, you could count 20 Mississippis before somebody actually says, hey, get a timeout, timeout. And the guy calls timeout and they give it to him. Never do you see it actually enforced, especially when refs are usually swallowing their whistles on sort of incidental, inconsequential. I guess, look, you should enforce the rules to some extent. Because is it aggravating to you when you see this, Louis, where you're counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, almost like watching from a couple of years ago the Dolphins pass rush, where they were counting Mississippis as they were attacking the quarterback. Uh, you don't see this enforced, and this look, I don't know. I mean, the video I saw, it was pretty close, Louis. It's not like they gave him a liberal amount of time there to inbound the basketball. I'm assuming they were out of timeout, so they would have called one. But they turn the ball over, and Golden State goes down, and I guess tacked on a couple of more points. Did not impact the point spread, which was covered by the Memphis Grizzlies, getting 7 points in the game. But certainly might have impacted the chances of the Grizzlies taking that to overtime. So that was pretty weird. I haven't heard too much about that. The big controversy in the NBA, I don't know if you would call it a controversy, because it was kind of a sequestered press conference. There was a resurfacing yesterday, Lubie, and now you know I love this topic of the bogus press conference, the completely shameful, steer you away from the truth, from what is actually part of the thought process, either going into a maneuver or a circumstance or coming out of it. Nico Harrison, your man from the Dallas Mavericks, general manager, resurfaced still as the general manager. And he looked the same. He hadn't gone through any kind of plastic surgical maneuvers to alter his appearance. He was still in this country, which, I mean, you don't know with what's going on now. You could be taken off the streets at any time. But nonetheless, he was there, and so was a gentleman named Rick Welts, is the man's name. Rick Welts, who is the managing partner there, or whatever, of the Dallas Mavericks, and obviously was responsible for this Luka Doncic trade. Now, we've talked about my three favorites covering sports down here for over 40 years, and Grant Long probably could attest. We'll get some validation on one of my theories on one of these, the completely bogus press conference. And this isn't where the general manager of a football team does the pre-draft obligatory press conference meeting with the press, and whatever he says, everybody tries to read some deep, subversive message in there. Well, he mentioned offense. I tell you what, he's going to take a tackle. I know it. And they start writing about that feverishly, even though it's obvious that they're going to take a defensive player and has been all along. And is it irresponsible to the press to even cover that stuff? Where, I mean, you go through all of the trouble to get to the facility, and you park your car, and you're schwitzing. It's 150 degrees, and the general manager gets up there and just spews pure nonsense about what the intentions are and the goals are and the realities are of what they're trying to achieve in the upcoming draft. Did we ever get anybody saying, hey, listen, man, we're going to blow this pick. We have the 15th pick. Our history is not favorable in this regard. We will probably take a guy that's completely unnecessary, that doesn't fit a need in any way, shape, or form. Isn't that what really happens most of the time? I mean, in the post-draft analysis, you're thinking, what the hell were they thinking? So you get none of that insight going in, and it may be irresponsible for the press to just go ahead and spew out this propaganda that clearly the club wants to direct you into a thought process that is completely foreign to anything that they're actually going to do. So maybe we shouldn't pay much attention to that. But my three favorites, of course, in South Florida over the 40 some odd years that I've been down here, when the Heat were involved in two of them. They're pretty good at this, are they not? For what's supposed to be a very straightforward organization, Libby, in terms of telling it like it is. when they tried to convince you that Ron Rothstein was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, so he wanted to step down as the coach. He finally got a head coaching job after sitting next to John Daly all those years with the Pistons, teaching his players wrestling maneuvers. And he gets a head coaching job with an expansion team up against it, but one that was starting to maybe show signs of life. Took a couple of years to sort of germinate because they really used to stiff you. Remember, this isn't like hockey. We were talking about with Craig Minervini on Conversations yesterday, where you actually give an expansion team a chance to be good.
Yeah.
And would it not be advisable to a league? Do you really want to put a franchise in a city where it's already suspect because they weren't part of the original members? So you don't know if this is going to take hold or not. And then you bury them with a losing team, a laughing stock type of team for the first 5 or 6 years of their existence. I'm not sure it's a good look for the league, is it, Lubie? It doesn't encourage people to become new fans in the cities that you're trying to establish.
No. Yeah, what hockey does make sense, but the other leagues does not.
Right. So, I mean, the Heat had what? The number 9 pick in the draft when they came in as an expansion team, and they took Ronnie Cycli, which wasn't the worst pick, but if you saw Ronnie Cycli play, he was kind of mechanical. As a collegiate player, a bricklayer from the free throw line, not much of range in terms of being a big man who can shoot. That wasn't so much in vogue back then. But a good player, but not necessarily somebody you're saying, whoa, man, we got Kareem, and our franchise is going to be good forever. So the idea, the notion that Rothstein was cracking up and couldn't take it anymore. Ron, we've had him on our show a zillion times since. He's in his 80s. He's still cool as they come.
Yes.
Still has that subtle sarcasm and interesting viewpoint of things, and analyzes basketball as if he was a young Hubie Brown. Unbelievable. Hubie just retired. I almost said checked out, but he's still with us. What was he, 90-something? And he was still doing
90s. Yep.
Ron's in his 80s. He's still doing broadcasts.
Yes.
It's great. So with that kind of deep-rooted love of the game where you're still involved in it, has to have plenty of money. He's been in the NBA for 40-some-odd years, Ron Rothstein. So does he need to work? No. He schleps down the arena from wherever he lives every night and does the Heat basketball games. I guess he may not be on all of them anymore, but he's on a lot of them. Mm-hmm. A diehard, in-depth passion for the game. Was he really going to resign because he was having a nervous breakdown? No. They tried to sell you that as if it was fact, and it turned out to be utter garbage. But we knew that at the time. Totally bogus press conference. We had, with Stan Van Gundy, gets his dream job. Years toiling as an assistant. What was like the 8th guy? He was in the 3rd row in the stands when he first started out with the Miami Heat. And this was before they had 14 coaches on every NBA team, coach for every player. And supposedly he rolls into Pat Riley's office and says, I can't take this anymore. I miss my family. He's still on the road like every day doing basketball games somewhere, schlepping around the country here. Has plenty of capital. He doesn't need to do this, but diehard love of the game, much like Rothstein. You can't convince me, no matter what, even if Stan himself told me, oh, yeah, that was the truth. I wouldn't believe that there was any merit, any reality, any tangible thing that you could sit there and look at and say, okay, yeah, I understand why Stan's quitting. He wanted to take his daughter to Disney World. And of course, who was going to come in? Pat Riley was going to come in and replace him because what? Because Shaq was saying, hey, it's either him or me.
Yep.
That was the reality. All they had to do was sit Shaq down and say, Shaq, is it him or me? And Shaq would have gladly told him, Jim. That would have been it. So I mean, total bogus. And then Shula resigning supposedly because he wanted to give way and clear the path for Jimmy Johnson to become the coach of the Miami Dolphins. Can you imagine? Don Shula stepping away from the game in favor of a guy who he really didn't have a whole lot of favorable feelings about. So, I mean, and they tried to have us believe that Don Shula walked into Wayne Huizinga's office and said, you know what, Wayne, I don't have it anymore. Game's passed me by. Get out of here. But this Nico Harrison thing last night with Rick Welts, they are claiming that they have no regrets whatsoever about trading Luka Doncic, that it was the plan all along. And the only thing that even had the slightest resemblance of anything that would resemble truth, resembling, but you get the picture. What was that? Luka Doncic's defense was suspect.
It is.
Oh, yeah. And that defense, they use this as their defense of trading Luka Doncic, a generational player who is beloved by everybody in Dallas. We saw what happened when he returned there. Nobody was burning Doncic jerseys because he didn't want to go.
No.
Now, in the long run, which team do you think will be looked upon as having had the more favorable end of that deal? The Mavericks getting a couple of players plus Anthony Davis, or the Los Angeles Lakers having
Well,
10
the Lakers.
more years of Luka Doncic at a high level?
I mean, it's not even comparable. Like, Anthony Davis is already hurt and already beleaguered. Doncic is already giving you 45 points, and again, he's in his mid-20s. And you like the Lakers will go from one of the all-time greats to another all-time great. Like it's mind-boggling. Again, he and the guy with the Blazers, the fact that they still have jobs is impressive, actually.
Well, the Joe Cronin, he may have found a little bit of justification as the season progressed. No? I mean, the Blazers were not horrendous. They hit a stretch there where they were actually pretty good. Not great. They didn't have overall, particularly, good season, strong season. But in spots, they started to show some signs of life, which is all we're looking for. Mm-hmm. Signs of life, Lubie. Just do they have a pulse? But a horrible decision. I mean, when you consider what Tyler Hero became with the Miami Heat this year, which I don't know. Did he become a franchise-changing player? I don't think so. But as Ethan Scoop Skolnick on this show yesterday pointed out very eloquently, he is somebody that if he is your number 2 option on a team,
you could win.
Is very, very effective and a good guy to have in that spot. No.
Yes, and nothing they got, and there's not one player they got from any of the trades involving Damian Lillard that is either on the roster, or if they are, I don't know if they play. I mean, like, I think Ayton may still be on the roster, but he doesn't play. Like Tyler Hero would, and he's young. Tyler Hero's still in his early 20s. Like Hero would, he might be mid 20s at this point because he's been in the league a while now. Like Hero, you could have put Hero with Scoot Henderson, and Scoot Henderson, who's been utterly useless, a guy who was one of the like a top 3 draft pick that everyone wanted.
Right.
He doesn't even, like, a lot of the nights he doesn't play. When he plays, he does nothing. That's the problem for the Blazers is, yeah, they were 36 and 46. They didn't win 20, but they have nothing to build around. Like Scoot Henderson was supposed to be their future. He probably would have fit really well with Tyler Hero. Instead, you scoffed at Tyler Hero. You got a bunch of parts that were old people, or Ayton, who had a huge deal and is just in the wrong era. This is the back to the basket big, which doesn't exist in this era, for friggin' Damian Lillard. And yes, Damian Lillard has been broken down ever since. So you look good trading him. No one said you were wrong to trade him. It was get something for him.
Yeah.
And you didn't get anything for him. And he would have given you Hero, whatever the offers were, which I think people were underselling what he would have been willing to do. Like Hero was a key part of every trade. And the dude was
you had to think that, didn't you? That every conversation started with, okay, here's Tyler Hero. Now, do we get Lillard or what? What else you want from us? You're going to like hose us and make us give up 17 draft picks? But by the way, I mean, they've traded so many number 1 picks in the NBA that whenever you see a deal, it involves like a 2041 number 1 pick or a lottery pick, potential lottery pick. And even that's protected into like 2050. That's incredible. I mean, how deep they've gotten into the well to accommodate whatever the parameters are of any NBA deal with draft picks that are involved. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the time, Cronin seemed like did he not look like a blatant fool for possibly turning down? And we don't know. I mean, I guess only a handful of people would actually know if Tyler Hero was going to Portland as part of that transaction, if it was going to take place. But you had to think so, right? Just about everybody that they were looking at, the first name that popped up was, what do you have that's tradable? And then people would have said Tyler Hero. And then he kind of drove another nail into the idea that he shouldn't be the first guy mentioned, because he is somebody that, look, if you had what? If you did have Giannis Antetokounmpo and Tyler Hero's on your team, then you're in pretty good shape.
If the Heat, if Jimmy Butler, and I appreciate you not hammering this yet, and I know we will.
Well, yeah, we didn't get to it because of the ridiculous nature of the contention of Nico Harrison, who we've been looking for with some kind of response, and this Rick Wells, who are finding ways to justify this Luka Doncic deal that just haven't transpired yet. Now maybe they'll turn out to be right. Luka will break his leg, and God forbid, and Anthony Davis will go on for another 4 years and lead the Mavericks back into a deep position in the postseason. But do you see that happening from what we're looking at right now? It looks to me like the Mavericks get eliminated tonight.
Yeah, the Mavs, look, they're still in the play-in, so there you go. But Kyrie got hurt again, and Kyrie's hurt a lot. And Anthony Davis got hurt, and he's been meandering with injuries. Look, Luka sucks defensively. We've talked about that, and that is going to hamper the Lakers in their playoff run this year. And who knows what it'll allow him to be going forward if he can be the face of a franchise that will contend for titles every year. That will remain to be seen. But the dude is one of the top 3 players on the planet, maybe 4.
You would want him on your roster, especially if you're the young Lakers. No
and
doubt.
he's still young, so he can improve his defense. He can improve his level of play. Like
Doesn't look like it.
No, but again, he's still a young dude. Like I don't know.
He's not going to become a defensive stalwart, though. I mean, there are some guys you look at and you say, all right, look, Tyler Hero was part of that discussion.
He's gotten better, yes.
Is he a little better on defense? He used to do the token pressure wave as guys were the Olay defense, so to speak, where the lane would open up and Tyler Hero's guys flashes in there and he just kind of waves and, okay, yeah, go ahead, shoot a layup.
Yes.
That was it. Then Mr. Fickle fan, you started getting on his back for diving for a loose ball.
Yeah, which he's never done since. Exactly. And that's why I felt justified. That's not the player he is. Don't be something you're not at the weirdest moment.
Not exactly Dennis Rodman. Diving.
You're not right. Look, people like you defending him weren't wrong for it. It's just annoying. It's like, dude, I've never seen you dive.
Well, the first indicator, perhaps, that you were interested in improving your defensive stature would be that you were hustling on plays that would be part of the so-called floor game, where you're diving for a loose ball. You're actually running at top speed, and then you're so anxious to get your hands on the ball and keep the other team from having that possession that you actually dive on the wood floor, Lubie.
Yes.
Which I'm not a big fan of. I don't know. How many times did you dive for a loose ball? I would say in my lifetime, that might have been 0.0.
Never, but look, I get it. Luka's had over the last few years some interesting injuries, and he jakes it, and he's not good defensively. So and he's earned like the super duper duper max. Do you want to pay him $350? Maybe not, but he's too young for you not to. Like you just sort of, you lucked into getting him. He's gotten you to a finals, which was last year. He has you as a top 5 seed every year. He has you in the discussion every year. Like, those guys don't grow on trees. Like, you have to give that guy the money. You have to keep him. Look, the reason the way,
and what's he worth to their overall
value
as a franchise? You guys, international. That's another thing that you have to look at. I mean, they had to be making just jillions of dollars off Luka jerseys and anything connected with this guy, including more ticket sales. If that,
well, that's the thing, exactly. Like, you're going to get in the playoffs with him. You're probably going to win at least a round. Like, that's all dollars. Like, they're not going to have any of that. If they lose tonight, they're like out.
El finito, as we like to say in Spanish. It's over. Yeah. All right. Well, that was interesting. I mean, the defense. How do you defend the indefensible? That was the point of all of this stuff. Where you're trying to just. I mean, what we've seen, it's a common practice now to have a total BS press conference. We've seen a zillion of them now. It's common. It's so common that even when you look at the person that's holding and conducting the press conference, you realize, well, I mean, could you be any more of a paid shill? And that's true all across the board. But in this particular case, to try and justify, should they have just remained silent? I guess at some point they had to come forward. But it was one of those deals where I don't think the entire press corps was invited. It was sort of just an impromptu thing that popped up with a few invited guests that weren't going to hammer Nico Harrison and Rick Welts. And they went ahead. I don't know. How good did they feel? Did they hoist one after? We really fooled them this time. Thinking that, I don't know. I mean, the justification for trading Luka Doncic had to simply be that they thought he was a fat slob who didn't care enough to even attempt to guard a guy and make it look like he was interested on the defensive end, and they were going to have to pay him a ton of money, and they thought he was out of shape and he was going to be often injured, and that's it. They thought he was a shot fighter. May as well have given the money to Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, he's a shot fighter. Hey, Archie Moore, just bring him back. He's had 107 fights. Let's throw him out there. They were trying to paint a picture that Luka, this is I would imagine went into their thought process. We can't give this guy this kind of money because he doesn't really give a flying one about staying in shape. That would have been the simple explanation, though. If it turns out to be right, then they're justified. And if it turns out that he plays another 15 years as a Laker and is enshrined permanently, that they take Jerry Buss out of his coffin and replace him with Luka Doncic's body when he dies. Just because he had such a brilliant career. If that turns out to be the case, then these guys, by then, we won't remember who they were, right?
Oh, no.
This one's really going to bury you, I think. So we'll see. But that was interesting that they did that. Okay, a ton of stuff happening, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Apparently, we're not going to connect with Grant Long. He must have gotten some a better invitation. No, he's a great guy, and there is an hour time differential.
Yeah, it's early.
Yeah, so we were looking for some analysis on Detroit and the Knicks, which most people are of the assumption. I mean, if you just threw out Knicks in 6 is good because it sounds like you're Muhammad Ali saying it. If if he runs, or whatever, if he's still alive, I'll get him in 5. Knicks in 6 seems pretty simple. I don't know. Does that go 5 games, Lubie?
I mean, probably
5 games, Knicks win, or does Detroit surprise the living daylights out of every sports fan out there and give these guys a go? Can they take it to a 7th game? Do you see this series going 7?
No, they're just young. Like, again, and the NBA doesn't reward youth. Like it. And this is a Knicks team that's been there the last few years. I don't know how far they go, but they play the teams that are pretty good to bad well. They don't play the good teams well, but they play those teams that are in the middle of the East to the bottom of the East really well. And again, their fans are going to be jacked up. They made all these moves in the offseason. It probably goes 5. I just think Detroit played strong enough this year and they're coached well enough. And they do have a legit, they have the thing they don't have anything else, but they have the thing the Heat don't have. They have a legit number 1. Legit number 1 can get you a couple games in the playoffs, especially the way Cunningham's played. He's played with a lot of maturity. He's been a leader. He's gotten everyone involved. He's played well-rounded. He plays defense. Like, that guy can get you a couple games. And the Knicks, again, are gassed already. So, who knows who misses this game? They always have a guy miss this game and a guy miss that game. And especially between Anunoby, Bridges, and Karl-Anthony Towns, those 3, one of them is missing a game or 2. So I can see them getting a couple games. I just don't see them actually having a shot to win the series, at least at this stage.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think that would constitute a complete shocker if Detroit beat the New York Knicks and knocked them out in the first round. And that would send Rose and his people back to the drawing board, wondering, well, what the hell do we do now? I mean, what are we supposed to do now, you morons? That would be an Animal House type of reaction. All right, the other series, though, that really stands out in the NBA is Denver and the LA Clippers. The Clippers have become the darlings, and because of their play late in the season, I mean, a big-time rally by the Clippers. Again, suspect, as you would say, Libby, because you're big on the injury report. Kawhi Leonard, how much action does he actually see? If he's out of there, the Clippers are a different team. James Harden, resurrected from the grave. How did he do this, James Harden? Did he look like he was just completely disconnected from the NBA and this big pot belly? He was starting to look like John Bagley back in the day. Already, I mean, you don't have a lot of fat guys in the NBA that you can reference.
No,
Miller unfortunately checked out. So we don't have a lot of guys that we can put in that category. Yeah, Wes Unseld had a big rear end, but you would hardly constitute him as a fat guy. But I mean, you don't see a lot of that. And Harden looked like he had swallowed a bowling ball, didn't he, or ate the basketball? And then his absolute DB Cooper disappearing act in not just in the playoffs, because there are games where he's okay, and then at the moment of truth, you talk about not exactly Jerry West.
Yep,
Harden would have an horrendous, inexplicably bad game.
Whether you believe in clutch or not, the world agrees that Harden is not clutch.
Yeah, he hasn't been. I remember mistakenly, I was trying to sound like I knew something about basketball when the Oklahoma City Thunder played the Heat in the finals of that LeBron series, right?
Yeah, the second.
And they had what? They had Westbrook at the height of his game, Kevin Durant at the height of his game, or heading towards it, and James Harden. And Harden was kind of the unknown commodity of the 3.
He was a bench guy.
Lesser known, and yet he was playing great all season long. I thought, wow, this guy's terrific. And sure enough, I made the bold prediction. I'll never forget this on the air because did Crow taste so bitter as when I said, you know what the difference in the series is going to be? I'm talking to like various basketball experts. It may have even been Stan Van Gundy was helping me analyze this thing. And I said, James Harden. And then he did a vanishing act during the series. My God. I mean, if anything, he was the differential because the fact that he stunk the joint out made it very easy for the Heat to prevail. Yep. Even though, was that the series that the Heat lose the first?
They lost the first game, and they did the gentleman's sweep. They won the next 4. They beat the crap out of them in the next 4 games.
With James Harden, I mean, may as well have been in the stands for all he was doing in terms of a contribution. All right, we're going to welcome to the show. We're sorry we didn't connect with Grant Long. Would have been interesting to get into it. But the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets slight favorites in the series, slight favorites. You have to lay, I think, 105 to win 100 on that series. The Clippers, though, the Nuggets are underdogs in this series.
Oh, that's dumb.
Wow, you have to lay 115 to win 100 on the Clippers. It's a toss-up, according
to... the Nuggets struggled down the stretch. The Clippers played well down the stretch, but no one knows if the Nuggets were sort of just trying to rest guys because they always have injury issues, or if they really had injury issues. Like, that's the thing for the Nuggets.
Well, they do hold, and I don't know what their record was there this year, but you would have to imagine that it's overwhelmingly favorable. The whole Mile High City thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the opposition comes in, and by the middle of the second quarter, they feel like they were smoking cigarettes out of a harmonica with like 20 at a time. I can't breathe. It's true. I don't know, Lubie. You've been to Colorado? That rarefied air?
Ever. No.
Makes a difference. When I was trying to hike out of the Grand Canyon there, when I made the mistake of going all the way down to the bottom with my son, because getting down there was easy. We're thinking, piece of cake.
Yeah.
Only 120 degrees at the bottom. And climbing back up, I have never felt so close to death in my life. It was like I was in the 14th round of the Thriller in Manila. I felt like Joe Frazier. I'm just looking at Eddie Futch, and Eddie says, no mas, baby. No mas. All right. Tony Segreto is going to join us here, though. It is a Wednesday, and it's an old school Wednesday with Tony Segreto here on the program. Iconic broadcaster, Tony Segreto, joining us here on the show. He's brought to you, as always, by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Outstanding. I mean, just really can't say enough good things about him. Ed Garcia should be joining us later on, talk a little sports with us as well. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I am fine and dandy. Lubie, how are you?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mr. Segreto.
Jeff, how are you?
I couldn't be better. I'm feeling really good today, and it's always a pleasure to have you with us. We have a lot to get into here, Tony. We really do.
Did I hear you invoke the name of the great Archie Moore?
Archie Moore, the Mongoose, yeah. I was trying to think of guys that were completely shot fighters at the end of their career.
He was so punchy at the end. He was
oh my God,
so punchy that he didn't know anything. I mean, he
it's unfortunate. Yeah, it happens. I mean, a lot of guys. I've been around boxing pretty closely, as you have too, Tony. And you'd see some of those guys in those chairs that they removed from a movie theater that were sort of on the side there at the Fifth Street Gym. And Angelo's in the ring there, and he's got some world champion doing his thing, and he's talking about how great he is. Chris Dundee's counting money over in the corner there from the tickets he just sold to the sparring partners for the upcoming match at the convention center. And then in the chairs where what you'd say would be the usual array of shot fighters.
Yes. You know, my father, God rest his soul, used to pick up Archie Moore and Willie Pastrana on the way to work.
Get out of here.
Almost every day.
Oh, you're talking to legendary guys there riding in the car with the father of one Tony Segreto. All right, we have a lot to talk about, Tony. And I know you were at a couple of these bogus press conferences I was talking about earlier, so curious to get your impression of what you took away from those. We'll be back with Tony Segreto, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants in a moment. Now that.
The time!
It's 8:37.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
All right, welcome back to the show. So, Tony, to fill you in, I don't know if you were watching earlier, but the premise for this was I'm reading about this press conference that was held by the Dallas Mavericks brass, Nico Harrison, the general manager who traded away Luka Doncic, and a guy named Rick Wells, who apparently signed off on this deal because he is essentially the general manager. He's the guy pulling the strings on player personnel and may have a more lofty title. But anyway, they're trying to justify, and they hold this press conference, and it was, I think, limited, very selective in who was able to attend this thing, as they gave their rationale finally. When did that trade take place? Like about a month and a half ago, Libby? It's been a while.
2 months ago.
Oh,
at least.
Yeah, and they finally came forward to give their rationale behind moving Luka Doncic in the postscript to this deal. And it just struck me, I mean, total BS. Look, if they told the truth, that they thought that Luka was eating himself out of the league, that he was so detached from trying to improve defensively that it was never going to happen. They didn't want to give him $350 million if he was going to break down frequently and miss a lot of games in the future because he was out of shape. And if you looked at Luka Doncic from when he came into the league, I mean, I know he was like 19, so his body's going to mature, but it matured so that he looks more like Nikola Jokic than LeBron James. Would you say that's a fair? I mean, and nothing wrong with that. The guy's a great player, enjoyable to watch. He starts hoisting him like Steph Curry from half court, and he's actually taking like a legitimate shot. It's not even like a heave or anything. And okay, great talent. That was their reasoning. Does it turn out to be flawed? We won't know. I mean, if he breaks down and plays half the games for the next several years for the Lakers and then flames out, all right, then they hit a home run by not signing him. So we shall see. But I'm assuming you were at the Shula press conference when Jimmy Johnson was introduced. Yes. You remember how hastily that was called? It was like
that was so quick,
to
call, and then there was something totally wrong.
There was an odd feeling in that room, wasn't there?
Yeah, you can ask Harvey Green. You know, he'll take it to his deathbed. He will not tell you the truth.
No, you can have him like with your finger on the jugular.
This is all due respect to Harvey. I mean, he's the quintessential PR man.
A sweetheart of a guy.
He got it from Charlie Callahan, but he will take this to the grave. and as he's dying, he says, "Okay, that's it."
So I remember that day because most of my time on the radio, I was usually with the flagship station that was carrying the Dolphins. So we naturally were Dolphins heavy, intensive in any kind of coverage, and you had to do more than any of the other stations. They were sending a guy, but we were setting up a live remote.
Yeah, you're breaking live.
We were sending 5 guys and live remotes, and
you're calling everybody. You're calling Sonny Hirsch from the grave and saying, hey, listen, Sonny, you got to be out here today, man. Jim Mad Dog Mandich, all of these guys that were big-time Dolphin coverage people, and we're all out there setting up a thing, and it took a while to transpire because I think they were waiting for Dave Wanstead, actually, to arrive. Yes. That was when Jimmy was stepping down. But with the Shula one, I mean, could you ever in your lifetime? You knew this man. You were as close to him. He was like a father to you, Tony.
He was.
Could you ever imagine him walking into Wayne Huizinga's office and conceding that, you know what, Wayne, they're right. The game has passed me by.
I was at lunch at Shula's house. This is after he retired. It was me, my son, David, Michael, and Don. And we just sat and kibitzed and talked. And I said to Don something about Jimmy Johnson. Just
man.
offhandedly. He despised that man. Despised him.
Yeah, I think the only guy he, disliked more was Nick Saban, who came in and replaced his son as the coach at Alabama.
Oh, yeah. That was another one. Oh, my gosh.
You know how proud Shula was of all of his accomplishments. I mean, he was
prouder of
he
his
was humble about it, but you could see that he was just,
he was
emoting pride at all times whenever you mentioned something.
prouder of his sons than anything else.
Right.
He was prouder of them for David, for Cincinnati, even for the Bengals.
I don't know how proud he could have been of that, right? I mean,
well, proud of,
Then you go like 3-12, whatever.
But after
3-13.
After a Dolphins game, right?
Yeah.
Going in there for a press conference, he would come in, he would see me off to the side, he'd call me over, he says, "How did David do? How did David do?" He was more concerned about David.
Oh, than his own game. Well, he was winning a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, but could you imagine? We were talking about how insincere these press conferences can be. That there's no way that this was his own decision to step aside for the guy, as you so aptly pointed out, Tony, that he absolutely despised, Jimmy Johnson. And Jimmy was the polar opposite in a lot of ways from an approach standpoint. I mean, Jimmy was the first guy beating his chest saying, "Hey, we're going to win the championship." And Shula was like, "Well, 72, that was sort of an exceptional year." I mean, he would really just kind of downplay the fact that they had a monster team.
Jimmy's such a great guy. He has. I've been down to his house. I've been, I just love the man. He and Shula had disagreements, and so be it. He came in and he did what he had to do, and he won when he won. So,
distancing the team, that was probably and it's a Jimmy play. But people don't like it when you want to divorce your team from the past, unless the past was so bad. I mean, this was a glorious history that, as you said, Don Shula was, devoutly proud of. Mm-hmm. So when a guy comes in, a new guy, this swashbuckling pirate that Jimmy tended to be perceived as, and he just says, "Hey, you know what? Forget about the past. Take down a Shula picture." We were seeing this going on in other places, and it offends people no matter what side of the equation you're on.
It really does. It offends people, and the Shula lovers, the Shula, the people who absolutely loved him, despised Jimmy. Despised him.
Yeah, really. I see. I liked them both. I really did.
I do. I like Jimmy Johnson. He did a lot for me too.
Yeah. No, Jimmy was always cool. I always enjoyed my association with him, and I liked his enthusiasm. I mean, he had he expressed it differently, but what was he doing that was different than Howard Schnellenberger telling you every day that, "Hey, listen, we don't suck." Yeah. Which was nice to hear, and he was great like that. Let's bring in Ed Garcia from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants here.
Ed Garcia, congratulations! You are now number one.
That's right.
It's good to be on top.
You beat.
That's right.
You beat Olive Garden.
That's right. Yeah, they had the spot for the last 7 years. We came in on top, and I've been blessed. I mean, we always kind of just carried that mentality. And at the same time, I really want to be humble about it because, we're just blessed.
Ed, stop. Don't be humble for 1 second, please.
Yeah.
I think it's just great that people recognize the effort of the fresh baked bread, just making things from scratch, cutting steaks, by hand, having an actual butcher in house. And, we rose to the top, and it's been quite a journey since 1993 when we opened that first one. Here we are, 800 strong, 40, maybe 50 now, international, that, that we're being recognized. But, what's really cool is that when I throw those numbers out, but at the same time, how individual we are, because I feel like every single one of my stores is like a mom and pop restaurant. It's Rick Kirk has his in Port St. Lucie. I'm in Vieira today, and this is Eric Romero, and it's his restaurant, his community, and that's one of the greatest things I love about Texas Roadhouse, because they really just buy into the town, just like a sports team.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You should be the Secretary of Finance, though, or somebody representing Texas Roadhouse, because how you're able to fight off the rising rates of virtually everything and stay at the price points that you're at. It's a testament. I mean, look, you drive by any one of the restaurants there, and the parking lot is packed.
Always a crowd.
All right, so we were talking, I don't know, before you came on about, I started this with phony press conferences in sports. I know you follow sports very closely. Jim Harbaugh's had a couple of these where you're thinking, what's the truth there, Jimmy boy? And Tony's covered a zillion sports press conferences, as have I. But they had this thing last night where, speaking of maybe overeating, which we don't recommend, even though you'd be tempted to at Texas.
You can do it at the Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah, well, the portions are so big, man. I mean, those baked potatoes look like watermelons. It's incredible. You do it. You must be in that same French Valley where that guy that does the Cindy Crawford serum is picking those melons. Dr. Savant, I think, is the guy's name, and he's on an infomercial, and he's got this melon that's like 400 pounds. But that's where you're getting your potatoes from. But all that being said, I mean, can you buy the idea that they had a press conference yesterday, the Dallas Mavericks brass, and they're trying to tell you, we got no problem. We traded the guy for some very good reasons. I mean, how badly are they covering their tracks, in your opinion? Even if it turns out, I mean, there's always the possibility that Luka bombs out in the next several years in L.A., incurs some debilitating injury, and you don't want to see it, but it's possible they turn out to be right. But what do you think of that? I mean, we were talking about various phony sports press conferences we've seen. I don't know. Do you have any that come to mind? Even the one with Nick Saban here, where he says, "I'm not going to be the Alabama coach," and the next day he's
the coach
in Tuscaloosa. He's got a mansion there.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, do you buy everything that you see in these press conferences? And are there any, like last night's, that maybe stand out where you said that can't possibly be true?
I don't know. I mean, it's their job. Like, it's my job to provide value for everyone that walks through our door. And I think that, there are different types of broadcasters and reporters that, it's just they got to do their job, and they got to sell their story too. So is there some embellishment or gray? And absolutely. I mean, there's been some pretty crazy stories, and I think, I definitely don't want to get into politics, but that's definitely where it's smeared all over the walls.
It's a whole other thing.
Yes. But, sports wise, I mean, it's just crazy sometimes how people just, get involved in the personal lives or this, that, we can go back to Tom Brady and, the personal trainer at home and this, that. I mean, it's just, there's lots of cutesy fun stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, I just want to stick to the basics, what they do on the field, actually, and I'll share, one story of just sports and GOATs. And I know a lot of people have different opinion, and we just wrapped up the Masters, and, big shout out to Rory. I did have some money on Bryson though. So I'm a little bit bummed on that because that final day, I thought Bryson was going to do it till he got onto that, as they would say in the Masters, the second 9. But, Tiger Woods, what he accomplished, starting from age 3 and all the wins, and had that all blow up in his face, and losing a lot of the sponsorships and this, that. And there was just so much out there. You didn't even know what to believe. And obviously, what I say is where there's smoke, there's fire. But then to come back and win the Masters a few years later and just prove, he didn't have to prove that to anyone. He just did it for himself. So I don't know. I think that, as far as sports and some of these stories that are out there, I think they're doing their job. But, my passion is stick to the basics and what they produce out there in their domain, in their fields.
Tiger was the king of the meaningless press conference. He never said anything. Yeah, I mean, you got nothing out of Tiger Woods, and you had no idea. I mean, when all of this stuff was exposed, and it's funny too because it wasn't that long ago I was at a meeting, and who shows up but Rachel Yucatel,
Oh.
right? Who was the woman, of course, that was on the phone
Busted
going,
everything.
"Tiger, are you coming?" As Elon picked up the phone there and says, the one question, and I don't know, Tony, he's led an exemplary life. Lubie has done a little of this. Ed, you seem like a stand-up guy, but the one question that no man can answer that is asked by a woman is, who's she? And in this circumstance, you got to think on your feet fast. And what did Tiger do? He flew out the front door there and tried to get in the car and drive away. And what does he do? He crashes into a fire hydrant. There was an element of comedy.
Who's she? She's my cousin.
Yeah.
Who's she? I mean, it depends on how it comes up, but usually it's in association with either. And now it's social media. It shows up.
That's
instantly.
Social media is so crazy. Ed, you gotta be so careful. Do you have a staff member that looks at the social media just to let you know what's going on?
Oh, 100%. I was not a TikTok person, but I have to have TikTok to review things that get posted out there in potential Roadhouse uniforms.
Okay.
And but we have a Gestapo. She doesn't like being called a Gestapo, but she definitely
not flattering, yeah.
She draws the line and forwards me a lot of exciting stuff that we find on the internet by our team. But that's today's day and age. I mean, people go home and their diary, what Lubie did, back in the 1930s when he was growing up, he would write in his diary. Today they just do selfies on TikTok and give their whole life story on there. And sometimes it does require a little bit of coaching and that, but that's just the normalness of today. Of you talk to your phone, you talk to the internet. That's your best friend versus little Billy down the road.
Yeah. What's scary is, sorry, Tony, but what's scary is you mention something to somebody on the phone, and then your social media is inundated with references. I mean, you could be talking about anything, and all of a sudden you're seeing 1,000 ads for things that are related to something that you don't ever remember posting anywhere. I mean, if they're not, if there isn't some kind of presence already inside your head, we're damn close to it, aren't we?
Those algorithms that they write for that stuff is absolutely incredible.
Amazing.
The clicks, the data, just where you go. But it's not just what you click. It's also where you walk through. There's these like white boxes and little businesses and this, that. I mean, I'm telling you, Big Brother is definitely Big Brother watching everywhere you go and this, that. It's pretty bananas, the data that you could buy on the internet these days.
Like one of those science fiction books where they got a chip inside your head.
Look, Lubie's starting to twitch right now as I talk about it. So.
Hey, now where do you turn your sports attention? Because I know you're a big-time college football guy.
Yep.
College basketball naturally tweaked your interest, especially with our man Dusty May there at the helm, and Michigan having a nice little run there, making it look like they were going to make some noise, but didn't quite go all the way with it. So where do you focus your attention now? Are you a draft guy? Where's Edgar? NBA playoffs, NHL. We have a tremendous matchup even here in the state.
I'll watch. I don't. I'll probably watch. The NBA playoffs, but it's not something that I follow. I wouldn't be able even to predict right now who's gonna get in there. Now, when we get into the last couple rounds, and all that good stuff, I'll be in there. I do enjoy the NHL. Growing up in Detroit, obviously one of the original six was Red Wings hockey. I think I may have shared a long time ago when I think I was 10 or 11, and I got to play hockey with Bobby Probert and Peter Klima.
Wow.
Many years later, I now realize Bobby Probert wasn't he one of
the leading goons in hockey at one point?
Oh, Bobby Probert was the boxer, number 24. That dude whooped butt for a living, and he was banned from Canada because they kept finding these bags in his where as he was going across the border. But that dude really enjoyed the fight, and he really enjoyed adult beverages. And when I played roller hockey, that's kind of one of my fun. Hey, I met Bobby Probert. He was drunk, and we got to play roller hockey. But I enjoy that. But other than that, hey, this summer I'm going to just sweat a little bit out there and work on my golf game. So that's
Nice.
that's
Oh,
gonna
very
be
good.
my attention as the countdown for college football happens. And
Inspired by the Masters?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I got to play December with our really awesome CEO, Jerry Morgan. Came down and he invited me to play Trump International down in Doral. I don't even know if it's called the Blue Monster, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're out. Yep.
Yeah. So and I caught the bug. I hadn't picked up a club in 20 years, and I had so much fun. It was just a really, really cool time donating golf balls left and right to every water source possible. But
How many sleeves did you lose, Ed?
I think I almost got to a dozen. But here's the thing: I was only the second worst, so that was good. I just had people like outshine me.
It's always good. Yeah, when
very
it's my
smart.
worst.
I just brought people worse than me, so I looked pretty awesome.
Ed, I gotta ask you, because we talk about the bread and the great steaks and everything. Where do you get, Jeff mentioned it, where do you get the sweet potatoes that I swear the four of us could share?
Oh, the big ones. I mean, we get them basically from Washington and all the way in the Northwest. That is like sweet potato capital of the world. We get them shipped in. We get trains, whole rail cars shipped to us here in Florida. Sometimes up to 2 times a week. I mean, just boxes and boxes. So when you're waiting in that traffic light, one of these times, you might see, just a whole bunch of our sweet potatoes coming through.
Excellent job, as always. The golf bug, I mean, Doral, you were playing as a novice because even from the women's tees, it can be pretty imposing, the Blue Monster. The other courses there were not quite as difficult to navigate your way around, but that's challenging. I thought you were going to say you played Augusta National also.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Kind of incredible. I can't. Tony, you never. Were you a golfer, Tony, in your day?
Yeah, I was a golfer, but
not to that level.
Not to that level.
Yeah.
Not nearly to that level.
Here's one for you, though, Ed. You're probably getting invited to any number of these celebrity scrambles, where you're teamed up with a celebrity of some sort, and you're raising money for charity. I was in a lot of them, and I'll never forget why the people. And this was very dangerous. Why the people would line the tee box as if you were a pro, as if it was McIlroy up there.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Buffalo lines up on the Key Biscayne golf course, and there were people lined up like maybe down 50 deep all along what would be the ropes. And I'm thinking, this guy hasn't hit one straight all day, man. It was like Jerry Ford all of a sudden stepped up to the tee and he sculls one like down the left side. And fortunately, it was such a bad shot that it missed the people because it went behind him. And so be careful out there. You don't know who can play.
Yeah, that's right.
He looks the part. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ed, for joining.
Absolutely.
Pleasure. Texas Roadhouse Restaurants.
Number one.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Number one. They beat the Olive Garden out.
All right, Tony, we need a prediction from you because you've been pretty good on this, even if it seems like you're not totally zeroed in on the thing. But Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers open up the Stanley Cup.
Oh, I'm zeroed in on it. I'm zeroed in on it.
You're on? Okay. And what do you think there? Tampa Bay and the Cats.
The Cats
in 6? Is that what it looks like to you? Huh?
Cats in 6, Cats in 7.
Ooh, going 7, a bloodbath. I like that. A lot of interesting stuff. Jim Sarney actually had a very interesting note that you can appreciate in the old school approach that we're taking here to this particular segment. And that is that this is, I think, he said it was the first time ever that the 4 American teams that were part of the original 6, that none of them are in the postseason.
None of them are there.
You have the Bruins, the Rangers, the Blackhawks, and the Red Wings, and none of them are in the playoffs this year.
Now, here's a question for you: would you rather watch the National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoffs or the NBA playoffs?
See, I'm not a good one to ask that question because I like them both. I think they're both different. I wouldn't want to have to choose. I think the Stanley Cup playoffs provide a spark that you don't see
in the regular season.
any other sport compared to what you see in the regular season. It's just the elevated levels and what you see are the real skills of these guys, which are remarkable.
It's almost as if they
in an abstract game. It's a hard game to define.
It's almost as if they save it for the
Yeah.
playoffs. And
I'm not sure about that. I mean, the regular season.
I'm not either. I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
But gosh, they take their play from here to here.
Well, I mean, you see less fighting, although you do see some. You see, less, more reluctance to take penalties, in key spots in games. And maybe you see the game officiated a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more liberally. So, but no, it's amazing. What strikes me the most about it is the degree of difficulty it takes. In the NBA, it's no bargain either. I mean, you have to win, 4 series. That's a lot of games. For best of 7 series.
Another season, for God's sakes.
Yeah, after you've just played a season where everybody's out of gas midway through. But in the NHL, how these guys do it, it's amazing. And the effort they put into it is truly
something to watch.
Yeah, very inspiring. And a hard game to define. I mean, it just is. So
for people who've never watched it or for people who've been casual, just take a look at the National Hockey League playoffs.
It's amazing. Yeah, even
so
the first
good.
round,
so good.
First round. I mean, you're probably watching a couple of routine 5-6 game series in the NBA, and you're surprised it even goes 6. NHL, literally anything can happen.
Yep.
Yeah, and a bunch of good ones. A series that are lined up in the West. You got Dallas and Colorado. That's always a good one. Las Vegas is taking on Minnesota, just qualified last night. Kings and Edmonton are a fairly interesting series. And Winnipeg is going against the St. Louis Blues, who got red hot at the end of the season. So,
did you renew your subscription to the Post?
No. You know what happened? They were offering a deal, actually, where you could get 10 weeks for $10, right, to try it. So I figured, well, maybe I'll see if they've improved the delivery. But the comments that were underneath it, which I was influenced by, and a lot of times you're going to get an overwhelming amount of negativity in these social media comments. 9 out of 10 are usually like, yeah, that guy's a real jerk. But everybody was commenting about how the delivery is horrendous.
Oh, really?
And it had fallen off to the point, Tony, where it wasn't even really worth the aggravation of looking for the paper anymore. As I had to call every day to get it redelivered, and then the guy would fire it around 11 o'clock in the morning. It's useless by then. But I do miss it a little bit. I really do. I don't like reading stuff online. I don't find the depth is there. And they covered a lot of things that I found interesting in the Post sports section. The rest
of the Post is great. The Post,
yeah.
I wish we had a Post down here. I mean, I wish we had a newspaper like that down here. We don't.
We don't have a good sports section anymore anywhere. It's unfortunate. We still have a couple of guys that are in it, but
we have 4 sports, for gosh sakes.
Exactly, and a major college presence also.
Yep.
Even enhanced now by FAU, which at least became somewhat of a factor in basketball a couple of years ago. Although I don't know how long that's going to last. All right, Tony, we love you, man. Thanks so much for being with us. So we'll see you next week. Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen, old school with Tony Segreto. And interesting, played hockey with Bob Probert. Are you kidding me? This guy's an animal, Lubie. He makes Ty Domi look like a midget wrestler. I mean, he was great. Wow. See, you learn something every day about the people that you're doing shows with. All right, Lubie, we'll see you later on. And thanks, people, for tuning in. If you didn't catch Conversations, Craig Manavini, great, with a nice overview of baseball. And looking at the NHL playoffs, interesting perspective. I guess there's a game tonight, a real curiosity point for degenerate gamblers, where the Columbus Blue Jackets need to win their game in regulation, Lubie, to qualify, to have any chance. Montreal would have to lose, I think, and Columbus would have to win, but they have to win in regulation to qualify for the postseason because of various tiebreakers. So anyway, so you might see an occurrence where a team is in a tie game and they pull their goalie, which at the end of the game, where they absolutely have to win in regulation. So going to overtime does them no good. Yeah. And so they pull their goalie even though they're in a dead heat.
Yeah.
Strange, but true. And it's not unprecedented, Libby. It's happened before. So, I mean, if you're betting the game, imagine this, you got an over-under of 6.5 and it's 3-3. And then all of a sudden, you see the Blue Jackets pull their goalie. You're like, what? What are you doing to me? You're killing me. You're killing me, Whitey. You're killing me. All right. We'll see you guys later on. Thanks so much for tuning in. For Mike Lubie, Lubitz, Tony Segreto, Ed Garcia, I'm Jeff DeForest. A little trivia challenge going tomorrow. We'll try and catch up with Grant Long if we can.
Remember, Dave Gurgles Gurgley is in Keeneland. So
Oh, that's right. No trivia challenge
tomorrow. I'm trying to get Grant Long on tomorrow since we missed him today, since we have a trivia challenge.
All right. We'll see what we can do. All right. Thanks, Lubie. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:08.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done.